One of the most prominent automotive manufacturing design experts, Sandy Munro of Munro and Associates, is going to be my guest today, and his interview is coming up next. Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric! Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button. It's free. That way you will join our community here and won't miss anything moving forward. All right, so most of you guys know Sandy Munro from two of his reports, the Teardown reports of Tesla Model 3. The first one caused quite controversy because he did not like the way it was put together, but the second one was actually a much more positive, because he was basically saying how amazing the engineering of the car is, how they are easily profitable, especially with their higher end models. But today we're going to talk about not just the production issues and the cost for Teslas and specifically Tesla Model 3, but we're also going to talk about the rest of the manufacturing community, because we see some struggles already with Jaguar and Audi and many other legacy manufacturers. And of course, it's interesting to know what the struggles from all of the electric car manufacturing community we can expect moving forward. Now, before we go to the interview, just want to remind you that this channel and this video is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. There's a discount code in the description of that video, so go ahead and grab it and save yourselves a few bucks. All right, without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest, Sandy Munro. Sandy, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Alex. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I wanted to go over a couple of things that I myself don't quite understand, even though I've done so many stories on this. But first, let's start with the issue that we see Tesla and many other manufacturers having, where they plan a model to go in production, and then they go in production and it gets delayed, and they end up making a few hundred instead of a few thousand. And I'm obviously talking about Tesla's struggle with Model 3, but also many other legacy manufacturers, now that they're making electric cars, they're all they're delaying some of the things, Audi and the Nissan and Kia and so forth. Can you explain to me and dumb it up for me, if anything? How in the world does this happen, where these guys have been in business for a while, but still not quite able to plan this on a large scale?
Mm-hmm. Well, the problem just boils right down to math. At the end of the day, you've got billions of combinations of things that can go wrong. There's thousands of components, let's say, on a single circuit board, and each one of those can give you an issue. When these guys create a product, they do their utmost to make sure that everything is right as rain, that everything is going to be put in the right place and made as correctly as it could be made. But reality sneaks in as soon as the line starts. Now, when you design a product, usually you're doing a little of that design in isolation from everything else. You really don't understand exactly how a car is going to build until you actually start to make it. And that's why there's usually a pilot plant or there's something where you're going to build the vehicle in a controlled environment. That controlled environment basically is where you test everything out. A lot of companies, like the legacy OEMs and whatnot, they have their own building for that sort of thing, and they test before they launch, because they really don't want to have a surprise when they're into launch. Tesla, they decided to jump into it pretty much right from the get-go. They didn't hold back. They went in, and quite frankly, one of the main reasons that they had issues is because they tried things that no one else has tried before. Actually, they have tried them before, but they failed. And Tesla had that kind of failure. Too many robots. They didn't design the car for robotic assembly, really. You have to spend a lot of time doing that sort of work. if you're going to have a successful vehicle. So it's much more difficult to make a car than you can believe. So that's half the equation. The other half of the equation is, do people want this car? And in the case of the standard OEMs that you were talking about there, Chevy and whoever, they anticipated, the marketing guys always anticipate that they're going to sell bazillions of these vehicles, and when that's not really the case. What really happens is the buying public is fickle, and they'll look at it and I don't like the color, or I don't like this seat, and so consequently you see, or they're just shy that these guys don't know what they're doing. So they don't always see the number of sales that they think they're going to see. Tesla had the opposite problem. They could sell to everybody, but they had no way to producing the cars that they wanted to produce. They couldn't get them out fast enough, and that was because they took too many risks. As I've said in numerous interviews and whatnot, the body is not really made well or designed well, so it's a tough build. The rest of the car is designed much better, but the body slows them down. Tesla had problems, but in a lot of cases, what they can do is they can just get rid of those problems by OTA, over the air changes, so software over the air. The Tesla product has millions of, well, not millions, but hundreds of antenna that pick up signals and change the characteristics of the car drive. None of the legacy OEMs have anything quite like that. So to boil it all down, it's all down to complexity, and market acceptance. Those are the two main factors when you're talking about why is a product not launching correctly or not making money for the company involved.
Okay, so if we were to break it down, okay, between Tesla and the rest of the kind of legacy manufacturers, how does this happen? I mean, Tesla is known, for hiring, the brightest minds, and Elon himself appears to be one of the best engineers in the world. I mean, he's launching rockets into Mars now. How could this happen that they went into market, and this is what, fourth car that they've launched, Model 3. How could it happen that they've, once again weren't really prepared to launch a new model and, made all these projections, and weren't able to deliver on even like 1/10 of them in the first half a year or so. That's, I guess, what I'm struggling with. Can you suggest something that might have happened there?
Well, there's a couple of things that, number one, I'm going to get you to go and find one of these things, but on the cover of Bloomberg a while ago, I don't know how long ago it was, but last year sometime, there was a picture of a rocket ship and a picture of a car and a picture of, I think, Elon Musk. And in essence, what it said was that they pointed at the rocket ship and said easy, and they pointed at the car and said hard. And that is the truth. I worked on rocket ships and I worked on cars, and I'll tell you which one gives you the most grief and the most sleepless nights. It's a car. It's very difficult to put those together and design them and whatnot. So that's one part of the equation. The other part is that when you're a legacy company, you're held back by your past success. Legacy companies have things called carryover parts, and there's a huge impetus by the finance people to have the engineers use those legacy parts. Those parts don't lend themselves to an electric car. And then there's I don't know what it would be classified, but there's a force inside of a company that says don't change. If you change, it's risky, and if you take a risk, you'll lose your job or whatever. There's always we call it the car career conundrum. You good for the car, but bad for your career. You don't want to do it. Good for the car, good for your career. That's a simple one. Good for your career, bad for your car. You might as well do it. It's a strange way of thinking, but it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter whether it's Toyota or Ford. You've got that problem. Now, when you start a new culture like what Tesla did, the car career conundrum doesn't raise its ugly head. It doesn't happen that way. And it's not just Tesla, it's other small companies. I've noticed this same sort of a situation. Their paradigms are not fixed. They don't know what they can't do. And sometimes they make mistakes, like the engineers that designed the body for the Tesla. But most of the time they do the right thing, or most of the time they did the right thing at Tesla.
So, I mean, and I guess this question would be for I guess Tesla and the rest of manufacturers. Every time a new model launches, right, and I cover pretty much all of the electric car models, it's pretty common. We should basically expect, delays. And if so, and it looks like that's what you're suggesting, what are the reasonable delays, right? Like, for example, Audi just delayed their e-tron launch because of some software issues, and I think it's only a couple of months. There are rumors that Mercedes is delaying their EQC launch and so forth. It looks like it's reasonable or should be expected. But what is the wiggle room there? Is it the 2 or 3 months, or like with Tesla, could be even over a year? What say you?
Well, it's hard to say what the delay could have resulted from or what have you. It's these delays there's a whole bunch of reasons. Number one is usually supply community. Somebody couldn't supply the part or couldn't come up with the right couldn't come up with the right logistics system. It could be that, again, you get into production and things change. What you got for pre-production components might be the same as the real components. And then there's color matching issues, and all kinds of things can go wrong. Like I say, there's anytime you've got millions of variables, you're going to have flaws. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to have issues. So, and that's kind of what happens on launch. The other thing is, you got to remember these types of cars, they're brand spanking new. They don't have any. There's not much of a precedent for these guys. So every time they put something in, it's a brand new day. There's a learning curve that's associated with new technology, and that learning curve is sometimes brutal. It'll clobber you if you aren't paying attention, or if you have any kind of other little glitch. Yeah.
Okay, so fair enough, and okay, so it definitely, because I thought at first it was Tesla, then I thought, well, maybe it's Tesla and Audi, but it looks like, and what you're saying, it kind of makes sense that they are learning as they go along, whether it's Tesla, a brand new company, relatively, or Audi, a legacy manufacturer that's just trying to figure out a new thing. And you're right, there is an inner struggle there as well. Okay, so let's move to the second topic that, again, I'm trying to understand. Once again, let's take Tesla an example, but I'm also interested in other legacy brands here. Obviously, all eyes are on the $35,000 Model 3 version, and it's been a while now, and it looks like they are making their way there. And even though there's speculations, will they, won't they? I mean, they have cut out the 40 kilowatt hour version of the Model S back in the day. Where is that struggle? And first of all, do you believe that they will come up with a $35,000 version? When do you think that will happen? Because we don't really even have a good estimate even from them. And where is the struggle? What is taking so long, essentially, is what I'm asking.
All right. So I've already said that by my calculations on what we've done, the Tesla people could push a Model 3, a $35,000 Model 3 out and make some money, but you have to remember that Tesla, they can be as independent as they like, but they have shareholders, and shareholders are the owners. Okay, they're not just people who have some stock in their hand. They own the company, and they want their money back. They want to see a return on their investment. That's why they did it. You invest something, you expect to have a return. So now the big decision is for them: what do we do? Do we make expensive cars that we can sell all day long, or do we make inexpensive cars that don't make much money? And that's where they are right there. That's their little problem. It's not really a problem, and it's not really a hard decision. You have to pay back your debts, and you have to pay back those people who had faith in you and gave you their money, so that you could make them more money. It's kind of like what it boils right down to, and that's where things are right now. Now there is a second point. We've already said that Tesla could make money on a $35,000 car if they built it in the U.S. But we just completed a second study. A lot of our customers wanted to know what's the cost of the Tesla if it's built in China, and that car is quite a bit cheaper to build. Same level of quality, same parts, same everything, except that it's been decontented. You're not going to get all of the fancy stuff, all the premium materials if you buy a $35,000 car, and that's kind of what we've calculated out, and that number is quite appealing. The number that we've calculated out shows that the Tesla, if it's manufactured in China for a $35,000 sale, is quite profitable. So they are, I think, quite profitable here in the U.S. with the expensive versions of the Model 3. I believe that they're going to be very, very profitable in China with the Model 3, no matter what level they sell at, whether it's the expensive ones or the cheap ones.
What do you think the margin is going to be when they're producing it in China for the Model 3?
It depends on what the level of trim is. So
the 35,000 all-elusive version.
Yeah, well, that's looking like about 25%, between 20 and 25%. It depends a little on. We're not 100% sure about no one knows for sure what's going to go in to the $37,000 vehicle. We know the big package items. We know, it's a 50 kilowatt battery, kilowatt hour battery. It's going to have just a single motor in the back, on and on. So we know the PM motor, and we know that sort of stuff. And we know that they're not going to put, all of the features and functions into that vehicle that somebody paying $50,000 or $60,000 is going to get. And we're pretty good at guessing, and that's why we're reasonably certain that when they build it in China, they're going to be looking at like 25% gross. This is gross, okay? And maybe more, because their investment costs are so low. They got a lot of freebies from Chairman Xi in China, and the guess out there is that they probably had to put in about $500 million of their own, which is chump change. Normally, a new plant with a new car inside would be about anywhere from $1 billion to $1 or $2 billion. Most companies, that's why they try and reuse a lot of the equipment. They don't want to have that kind of an investment. So that investment that they got to put up a Chinese plant of only $500 million, that makes a big giant difference in your the way you're going to do business and deliver. If it was up to me, if I was Elon Musk, I'd build the $35,000 cars in China if I wanted to appease the American buyers, because it's going to be much, much more cost effective. Yeah.
Wow. So you're suggesting that all Model 3s should be built in China if Tesla wants to see the real profits on it. Even
No,
no?
no, nah. The deal is here that there isn't enough volume out of China all by itself. So building in the U.S. and building in China is a good idea. It's a really clever idea. I think that Elon Musk will be able to ramp up to. He wants to do 500,000. I'm pretty sure that I don't know how and what they've got going on inside that building, but the size and everything else, they should be able to produce 500,000 cars or 500,000 cars there. And then if they ramp up the way they're hoping to maybe make 1 million or so cars in China, they'll be pretty much at capacity. I think that what you have to be frugal or smart about is how do I make the maximum amount of profit on the $35,000 car, and the best way to do that would be to make that car in China and ship it over. Whether he wants to do that or not, that's his business, but to me that would be the smart move, and then make the more expensive cars here in the US.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense. So if you had to guess with everything that you know at this point, when do you think all of the stars will align and they will actually be able to start building the $35,000 version, if at all?
That's strictly up to. I mean, they could do it right now, but I think it's going to be more to do with like a board member kind of decision. The executive staff is going to make that. I think they could do it right now if they wanted to, but I don't think they want to. I think what they really need to do is appease the boys on Wall Street and make sure that the stock doesn't go down, and the stock will go down if they aren't making any money, or if they're not making the kinds of profits that they probably can make. So
What would be the acceptable profit? Are we still talking about 20-25% as being acceptable profit for the investors to give them a green light?
The investors wouldn't do it; would be the board. But
yes, the board. Yes.
25% is very good. Yeah, that would be a very good margin. But if you're making, I don't know, some of these expensive versions, we're figuring that they're looking at maybe close to 40%
Wow.
gross. That's, I mean, where do I want to put? Do I want 25? I'll ask you, would you like a quarter or would you like 50 cents? You know,
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. For every car that comes off the line. And
that makes sense.
That's kind of like what they're looking at here. It's a business decision. It's not. You can't have a bunch of emotion here, and Tesla is not. It's not welfare. It's not a welfare company. They have to make money, and they have to do what they think is right for their shareholders.
Okay, so let's also talk about, the legacy manufacturers. Chevy stated a while back that they're definitely not making money on their, Bolts, but they're
No.
losing a lot of money. So help me understand, how's that Tesla, that hasn't been doing this for too long, is able to be, you were saying a little bit of profitable or being very close to it, and very profitable very soon, if we're talking about even within a year, and a legacy manufacturer with all of the resources, with all of the talent, is not able to even come close to it. What's going on there? And I'm not just talking about Chevy, I'm just taking Chevy as an example. I think Kia and Hyundai are having the same issues. How come?
No other car company makes profit except for Tesla. None. I have a big long list, and I can tell you for sure nobody but Tesla makes money on electric vehicles. And the reason for that is volume. It's all down to volume. If you don't sell a lot of cars, you don't make a lot of money. And there's no real impetus right now for car companies, the legacy companies, to really want to run out and invest in a vehicle that nobody's going to want to buy. There was a vehicle a long time ago called the EV1 that General Motors manufactured.
I remember.
And okay, nobody wanted it, so they stopped producing it. Then the press came out and said, "Oh my gosh, who killed the EV1 and all this?" At the end of the day, if people don't buy them, if the general population doesn't want to buy them, then you go and do something else. You can sell apples or you can sell shoes, but if you can't sell an electric car, you can't do it. Now, when it comes to Elon Musk, he has something that nobody else has. He has, I don't know, star status. Everybody loves him. He does all kinds of amazing things. He puts tunnels underneath Los Angeles. He flies rocket ships to the moon, if maybe one of these days. He's doing all kinds of things that in the olden days, when the U.S. was a lot more aggressive or more inventive, we had lots of people like that. Henry Ford or Walter Chrysler or whoever. We had lots of people like that. Now we have none. I'll bet you. No, I'll wager that of how many thousands of people you've got watching these videos, I'll bet you none of them can think of another CEO of any car company, period. You know.
I would agree. So, are you saying that you nowadays, in order to produce an electric car and sell it to the masses, you have to have a Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, or is there any other way to sell the electric cars to the market at this point?
It's not so much sales. Some people will buy some cars. A lot of people buy a Prius only because it's coming from Toyota. They have faith in the name. If you don't have faith in the name or the brand, then you're not going to buy. Simple as that. And people have faith in the brand, the Elon Musk brand. I mean, who else has landed a rocket ship on its tail? Nobody. Even NASA said, "Oh, that can't be done," and here he did it. So people think if you're going to get a car from this guy, I'm betting that it's going to be usable. It's going to be good. I won't be getting a lemon, as it were.
But there are, I mean, in all fairness, there are plenty of people who believe that Chevy makes good cars, and they might be making good gas cars. But so why is Chevy having a problem selling a new car? I mean, I haven't seen that many or any advertisement for Bolt. So isn't that kind of a catch-22? They're not going to make too many of those because they can't sell them, but they can't sell them because they are not putting any marketing dollars or advertising or efforts into the car. Where does it have to start for a legacy manufacturer for them to start selling the electric cars and make money on them on top of that?
The buyer of a Chevy or a Ford, and even to some degree, someone from Chrysler or Mercedes or whoever, they're buying because they want to, there's a certain image that they have, or there's a certain type of car that they want. So there was no Model S that was produced by any of the other guys, and there was no Model 3 produced by any of the legacy people. BMW tried to manufacture a very ugly luxury car to the masses, and it didn't really work out well. The Bolt is a Me Too with short range. All these cars are a half-hearted attempt. Elon Musk jumped in with both feet. And like I said, he's got star power and the rest of these guys don't. Like if you want to buy a truck, go get a Dodge Ram. They just won the Truck of the Year award this year from Motor Trend. You want to buy a off-road vehicle? Oh, well, the Jeep, it just won. You want to buy a car? Well, then maybe you want to look at the new Hyundai or what. At the end of the day, people buy what they really like or what they aspire to or what is first and foremost in their minds. With the people who buy electric cars, They're young. On as a rule, about 80% of them are young. They want to save the planet. They're not interested in something that's going to guzzle gas and spew fumes. And so you've got a limited market there, but that limited market really likes everything that Elon Musk does. And so you wind up with a winner, a financial and a product winner.
Okay.
That's kind of like what's going on right now. And quite frankly, who's got something that looks exciting? You jump in a Tesla and punch that thing, just step on the accelerator. You're going to go like a scalded cat. That thing is wicked fast. We have guys here that actually, after we tore one apart in one, we've got guys here at Munro that went on and bought those cars. They're very happy with them. They like them a lot. And one of the reasons they like them is because they're fast. They're really fast, and they track well. I mean, I used to race cars. That car is like on rails. I took it out in a park. It was an extension school that used to be across the street from us that closed down. We drive around the barriers and we use their parking lot for a test track sometimes. I'm telling you what, that thing was just amazing. I was cutting corners and going around some of the lamp poles fairly fast in not so great conditions, and that thing held the road beautifully. I did not feel nervous or jumpy or anything. My hands weren't clenched, nothing. Everything went really well. That kind of excitement isn't something that you see in most electric cars. I mean, the first time I drove the Tesla, just before we tore apart the BMW i3, I got a chance to drive it for a little while, and they'd been driving it all day, and the battery had run down. When I got in it, I got to the edge of our property, if you like, and went to turn a corner, and then this incredible racket. They've got first I thought it was an engine from a chainsaw or something that immediately kicks in, and it's like right in your right ear. I mean, it's like a huge noise, clattering and banging. That definitely made me excited. So at the end of the day, that's the kind of stuff that people don't like. They don't like that. But when you have a half-hearted attempt by the guys in the glass houses, that's what you get. You can't do anything different.
Okay, so last question, and I kind of wanted to circle back with when we were talking about production in China. So, do you think, cars are kind of the last thing that we don't really accept or really even got to making in China just yet? Everything else, clothes, phones, toys, everything's made in China. I'm generalizing, of course. Are you suggesting that basically the car industry is heading in that direction as well, and it will be more, if not productive, but definitely profitable to start moving the manufacturing to China, where it will become more profitable? Or do you think there's still some advantages in having the plants and manufacturing to be done here in the United States?
Okay, so first off, there are billions of people in China, and a lot of them are really smart. Anything you see on TV in the news about, buildings falling down and people begging, that is all 100% garbage. Notice how I didn't swear. And I've been there a lot, and I'm going back in a little while, and I'm telling you, these guys are going to kick our tails because they work hard, they are smart, they're well educated, and they've got a tremendous amount of money. I mean, everybody that decided to run to Walmart and buy something cheap, that there's a saying around here. I don't remember what company or whatever says a cheap price beats an expensive price every time. Guess what? The American buying public doesn't care if it came from China. And I've watched this several times where people say, "Oh, you got to buy American." The American population will not buy American. They will buy whatever they can get that happens to work cheap, or they can buy cheap and works well. And that's what happened with when the Japanese invaded. The Chinese invasion is not like the Japanese invasion. The Japanese invasion kind of fizzled out because there's only half as many people there as there is in the United States. Well, guess what? China's got billions of people. So you know what? You better hang onto your hat. I'm glad I'm old. I I can see a time when there's going to be a lot of people running around scratching their heads saying, "Geez, maybe I shouldn't have bought that cheap cat food at Walmart, or maybe I should have bought a shirt that was made in the United States," or on and on and on and on. There's don't think for a second that they're not going. You are not going to be seeing cars from China coming here, especially if the buying public decides to go to electric. It's going to be damn hard, really hard to compete with what I've seen in China. They don't have old crappy factories. They got brand new factories. Those factories are spectacular, and they're loaded with German machine tools and whatnot. They sell machine tools to the Americans, but when it comes to what they want for their production, they go to Germany, and they buy the Germany and Switzerland. They buy the absolute best. They're not fooling around. I mean, if you want to say that we're in a war, yeah, it's an economic war. It's not going to be bombs and bullets. It's going to be basically RMB and dollars. That's what it's going to be. And quite frankly, I don't hold up an awful lot of when I compare executives that I've talked to in Japan, Korea, China, and I compare them to a lot of the executives I meet over here. There's no comparison. These guys get up every morning and brush their teeth with blood or something. They're really into it. They really want to win. They want to be on top.
Okay, I will take it as a yes. We will be seeing cars made in China, not I'm assuming by legacy manufacturers, but the newer or the existing Chinese manufacturers. Well, we're definitely living in interesting times. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm hoping we can continue this conversation. Now, you produce many different reports for other manufacturers and whoever is really interested. Your Tesla Model 3 teardown report is also available for those people who are watching who want to have a copy for that one or any other report that you've produced. Tell them where they can find it.
There's a little blurb on our website, www.leandesign.com, that you can have a look at, or you can contact Sue Okray. She works here and she's in charge of that. Her email address is sokray@leandesign.com.
All right, so I will also put it in the description of this video. Sandy, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Safe travels. I know you're just about to travel, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Well, great. Maybe I'll have something to say when I get back from India and China. So India is also a threat. I mean, we're being surrounded, but at the end of the day, you have to live with the situation as it is, and so when I come back, I'm probably going to be filled with new stories.
I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Sandy. I appreciate it.
All righty, Alex. Have a good day.
All right. Well, I went into this interview sort of not knowing much about the manufacturing process, and it is a complicated topic. And I'm glad that I kind of got educated on some of it, along with a lot of you guys watching. So I'm hoping to have Sandy on maybe in another few months. I'm sure there will be more for us to talk about. Of course, as he mentioned, you can go and order his report for the Model 3, the latest teardown. Looks like he gave me a bit of an exclusive information there about the profit margins that he predicts for Tesla's Chinese factory to have for the Model 3. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. I mean, it looks like he's pretty optimistic that we are going to see the $35,000 version Model 3, but also it will make investors and the board and everybody else involved happy, and it looks like that might be happening pretty soon. So I'm excited about that. Also want to give a quick shout out to one of my newer Patreons, Sean Morton. Thank you so much for joining my Patreon community, the only place where you can watch me live. If you want to join and contribute to this independent YouTube channel, go ahead and browse to the description of this video. That way you can join my Patreon and of course contribute to the success of this show. All right, guys, definitely looking forward to your comments, and once again, I'm looking forward to having Sandy on the show back in the next few months. All right, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.